I'd like to call the Monday, August 2017, August 7th, 2017 committee meeting to order. Stand for the flag salute, please. Rodney?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Certification of compliance with the open meetings law.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9, 2017, and the Atlantic County Record on January 11, 2017. Mr. Gishard?
present.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Shanker?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
Mayor Kurtz?
Here. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for private reflection. Also, we have a committee member who lost a family member, and we want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Addition and deletion of late agenda items to be considered for action tonight. There are none. What I would like to do is we have some folks here today from Chancellor Place who wanted an opportunity to speak, and normally, because it's not an agenda item, they would have to wait to public comment all the way through to the end of the meeting. What I would like to do as a courtesy to them coming out tonight is give them that opportunity to speak now, so you don't have to wait till the end of the meeting. Is that okay? Great. And you just have to state your name in the microphone, and you can speak for us, and then we'll address your concerns. Come on up. Before you start, though, I just wanted to say that some members of the committee, I went out tonight. I was before the meeting, and I actually was there looking at the site. And it was quite disturbing what I seen. The one basin was full. And it was almost in a spot where it was just getting ready to run across the street with the rain we're having now. So I can imagine the seriousness of what happened with the last rain event, where we had so much water in such a quick time. But go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just your name and where you live.
My name is Eric Holtzen. I live at 76 Chancellor Park Drive. For a couple years now, we've been having this problem, but I believe it gets pushed back a couple of times. But this last time, it wasn't a large loitering storm. It was rather quick, and it was just normal rain that was coming through the area. And I have pictures to actually show what happens when that one basin. Now, on 32nd Ave, there are two basins. There's one a little bit further up that seems to drain into the one that's level with the street.
And you would think it would drain the other way because it's much bigger.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what happens is then it overwhelms that storm drain right across, and then it goes right over, and then there's a large river that just comes right back. I have pictures if you'd like me to show you any of them.
Okay.
Can I
Yeah,
submit
you
them?
can bring them and set them up here. We can pass them down the dais and let everybody take a look at them.
These are just basic Google map to show, Mr. Mayor, that there aren't any bodies of water.
This is the way it looks tonight.
Yes, but then it's just the fences. But I don't understand if it is a basin or retention pond, how it can only have three sides with a fence that allows it to come over and then, once again, overwhelm the storm drainage. There's a lot of questions that are going low unanswered. And my mother, Carolyn, she actually had some information. Sorry to just...
That's fine. Just
She's a little bit more articulate than myself.
just state your name. Yeah.
Carolyn Downs Holton, 76 Chancellor Park Drive.
Okay.
I believe that this matter was in the system about 2 years ago.
Right.
There were supposed to be hearings with Atlantic Electric, and it got postponed and postponed and pushed back, and then finally disappeared altogether. I don't know whose responsibility the maintenance of that particular, I can't call it a basin. It doesn't meet the definition of a basin if one of the sides is a wrought iron fence. I think you're the engineer, but I don't think that meets, I don't know what it was intended to do, but right now it funnels water right down the bike path behind Chancellor Park Drive. And it gets deep enough and fast enough. It's caused significant property damage over the last, I've been there since 2013. It's caused significant property damage, including mold, but also mosquitoes. And when that gets deep, there's actually a current. And I don't understand how, in a flooding situation, New Jersey literally has reams of rules about flooding and whose responsibility it is to at least mitigate that or take care of it in some way.
Sure.
If they can use sandbags to, buffer a riverbank and keep it from flooding, I think some kind of like wall or something should be put up there, but I don't know where the water was originally intended to go. That's my question, and I can't find that info. It's not easy.
Well, I can tell you that previously, the last big event, you said a couple of years ago, we had some problems. The electric company has done some work out there. I think one of
Yeah, they had built,
Roger's aware of
first they
some of it.
came in and they put that other basin in the back. The one further up from the one you're
Okay.
talking about. In fact, John and I went out to look at it today, but it's obvious that the small basin can't handle that water because it should be draining into the other one instead of the other one draining into this one. You only had surface water in the larger basin today. And look, if I might, Michael, would you tell her what you did in the meantime once you became aware of this problem?
Yeah, I've talked to Atlantic City Electric, Ken Mosca in particular, probably about 5 times as late as 5 o'clock this evening. I spoke to him again. They're concerned. They don't want it to happen either. They're going to actually bring in some engineers and have the basins inspected again, and they're going to bring in a contractor and have them cleaned out. So, they've committed to that.
If that is, in fact, a basin, by definition, it's supposed to hold water, there's no way that that's going to hold water when one of the sides is a wrought iron fence. So there's no place for the water to go if it comes in there.
Well, that's what the engineers would check out. I've been also sit on the planning board, and we're very, very particular about basins, although this was approved quite a while ago. Something's obviously not working like it should.
Don't these have to be, forgive me for interrupting.
No, please do.
Don't these have to be inspected every 5 years?
Yes, and they've done that. We have reports on file from them.
How can they inspect it and ignore the problem that flooding occurs? How can they inspect it and say, okay, it's fine, it's a basin that doesn't hold water? If they inspected it, how could it be approved?
I can't answer to the design of the basin. All I know is that their report from their engineer states that it works according to the way it was designed to work. Now, I can't speak to the...
Then we have a problem.
Yes, you could have a design flaw. I don't want to, I can't state those facts, but it sounds to me, just going out there and looking at it, something's not right. It's
Right,
not
I
working. It's
appreciate
not
that
draining
you did
properly.
that, right. But it's this, we were back doing this 2 or 3 years ago, and I appreciate the verbal support I'm getting, and that's well and good. I want the problem solved.
Sure, I can understand.
And
that.
these pictures they tell a story. Can he give these to the electric company or show it to them?
Absolutely.
Michael, these tell a story.
There is a preschool learning center. There are kids on that property in that area. There's a lot of children in the neighborhood, and it's a danger.
Also, just to interject, gentlemen and miss, it doesn't come right down the bike path. It actually floods that wooded area behind where
Yeah,
there's...
because that's the low point right there. It's
And
almost
then-
like a swale that goes in there.
Correct, and then when that gets full, it then comes to the bike path, travels down that, gains a lot of speed until it gets to, somebody's house, and then there's been other residents that I believe are working tonight that actually build up the fences, so it's just picking up speed down that bike path. But I don't know what to do, and I appreciate going out and looking at it tonight before discussing this.
It was quite eye-opening.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is there was water running outside of the fence on the electric company parking lot side instead of at the pond. It was running outside, coming down to the curb, going into the gutter, and then going back into the pond. But at a point, I can see where eventually the pond fills, that water can't go along the curb into the pond. It has no place to go but across the street. So that's the issue. I just can't.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and also there's a fire hydrant right there, which I'm worried about the the city water and everything else
Yeah.
that's going on. But thank you. Would this be a appointment for follow-up questions or?
Well, you have other people here that want to speak on the matter, they can? Sure, step right up. Yep, just state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Kate Rennie. I'm brand new to Mays Landing. I moved into Chancellor Park Drive 3 weeks ago. So you can
Oh,
only imagine,
I can.
2 weeks in, hearing from, neighbors and the property management company, it's not usually this bad. Well, 2 weeks in, we had major flooding. I live right next door
Right.
to Eric here. And we woke up Saturday morning and the panic that came across me is, I don't know anything about this house. I don't know if my basement's going to flood. Thankfully, it didn't. We ran out to Home Depot, grabbed about 20 sandbags and tried to build some sort of barrier to prevent the water from the bike path to come into our yard. And fortunately, the yard is now kind of destroyed, and we've had to sort of maneuver and build sort of like a little waterway so that the water drained on either side of the house. I mean, a neighbor walked by and asked if we had a pipe burst because it was that bad. So at this point, I am new to the community. I'm learning about, who's responsible for what. And at the end of the day, I definitely need this resolved in the near future because we live in the Northeast. Nor'easterns happen.
Sure.
So rain like this definitely happens, more often than not, and we don't want any sort of issues in the future.
Well, we're at the point where comments from the electric company, the basins are working like they should, just can't be accepted anymore. So we have to look into this. And our administrator is on this right now. Like I said, just before the meeting, he was on the phone with the electric company again to get the guy out there to physically get out there and see it right now firsthand. So they're the kind of things you have to do to kind of keep on
Your
this end.
property manager's always on the emails
Yeah.
or on the phone.
And she's here tonight. How you doing,
she's
Marjorie?
here.
Yeah,
I've
so I have.
corresponded with Marjorie by email. I let her know that we were working on it and that we were trying to get some answers for the meeting tonight. So working with the electric company right up to just before this meeting started. So we are looking into this, and we'll keep you abreast of what's happening. We really will. It's got to be something resolved here.
Well, as soon as we find something, I mean, we can communicate with Marge and at least get the information back to you. Your comments, I mean, from basins have been one of my priorities since I've been on the board along with other members here. And regardless of what the event is, okay, not every basin did flood that day, okay? Contrary to what I had heard. But we did see some areas that took significant damage on the other side of town that were low, that the creeks were flowing at rapid speed, and it was pretty hard, but there still should be a mechanism to hold back. Your point's well taken about the front of that basin. It's almost like having nothing there,
Yeah, yeah, like the pictures speak volumes, but going out there and looking at it was really what I needed to see.
Mike, when did he say he was going to get back to you? As soon as he finds out something,
Told me they were going to hire a contractor to go in and clean them out now,
to clean it out?
Right away?
all the bottoms of them.
That's not going to do it, I don't think. I think they've got to do more than that. Wouldn't you say, Kevin?
It would, they're not supposed to function like that.
No.
No design meets the regulations if it's designed to function like that. Just, it's not supposed to do that.
And if, in the pictures, in the both back corners of that basin, there are storm drains emptying into that basin. So it's filling, it's coming from the parking lot and wherever else, and I just don't get it. They can clearly see that in those pictures if you would like to hand those in when you do, but yeah, I don't get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Carolyn Downs Holton again. The state of New Jersey has a Department of Land Use Regulation, and there are specific things. They tell you what the angle of the,
I'm familiar with that, yes.
and everything is there. And I just don't understand why one side being a fence works. But having said that, and I appreciate the fact that you're all supportive and on it, can we follow this up at the next meeting so it
Yes,
doesn't get
and
lost?
also we'll contact Marjorie, administrator will contact Marjorie as we get any new information in, so you get it firsthand as to what's happening. Obviously, they have to really take a close look at this.
Yeah, they've
Something
been-
like our engineer said, something's not working right. It shouldn't be.
And
So let's figure it out.
Yeah,
Now we got to really figure this out.
they've been resistive. Like I said, this has been
Yeah.
the fourth year. So,
Yeah.
thank
We
you
don't want
again.
new residents to have to contend with something like this, so we're working on your behalf, too.
Thank you.
And I know this is no consolation to you, but
No.
but flooding has really been a problem all around. Maybe not as bad as yours. And unfortunately, with the weather patterns as they are, we could probably expect more of this in the future. So that's something that our planning board and the whole board is very sensitive to, and we're going to work harder on this to try to prevent this kind of thing happening in the future.
Another interesting point is my understanding, the plans for our development are missing.
Well, that should be able to be maybe corrected here. I don't know. We should have
First I
some
heard.
things on file, yeah. Absolutely.
Missing by who?
See what we can do there, okay? And again, I thank you for, I wanted to get you in early so that you didn't have to sit through the whole meeting. Yeah. Thank you very much. Does any other of our committee members have another comment? No?
I think Steve wanted to say something, John.
Okay, Steve?
Mayor and committee, Steve Philippone, Planning Board Engineer. I just wanted to, I was a Planning Board Engineer 4 years ago when Atlantic Electric came in with a very minor application, and it didn't require stormwater with their application, but the Planning Board required that they do some work. In the basin in the front, they did some work, they took some silts out, they corrected some other items on the property. There's 2 inlets that were silted up, and we had them pump out those inlets and take all the silts out of those inlets. So about 4 years ago, we made some progress. I just want to volunteer my own time. I would like to get involved on my own time to help solve this. I have the plans, I'm familiar with it, I remember all the drainage.
Is it supposed to be a basin?
It's a basin, it's a very shallow basin. I mean, we live with it because it was built many years ago, but the water comes in off of that bike path and it goes into that basin. But it's very shallow. It was silted up 4 years ago. I think they need to do some work on that. And Mike, when you talk to Atlantic Electric, I'm happy to jump in on my own time, meet with them, and try to help solve the problem. I'm very familiar with it. We solved it 4 years ago, and I think we could solve it again. If they're willing, if Atlantic Electric is willing
They
to-
seem very willing to,
Yeah.
they're very accommodating. I mean,
That would be
when I
great,
spoke-
Steve. Thank
Okay.
you for offering that.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll give you my card, and
Steve?
Mike will be in contact.
Is there any underground streams that feed this problem?
There's a bit of a high water table where that shallow basin is, so we weren't able to excavate and create any more volume in that basin. But the way that basin works is water comes in off the bike path, it's shallow, and then there's another connector pipe to a large basin in the back. And it's just such a fragile, everything, the slopes have to be right, we need some infiltration,
Yeah.
so it's
My
not working.
my question, Steve, is that basin in the back from where I stood is uphill.
It's uphill, but it's actually deeper, it's actually,
So it should take the
yeah,
water?
and they might need to clean that out. That was
Yeah.
part of the other problem. That connector pipe was silted up when we looked at it 4 years ago, so they had to do some work on that also.
Right.
It might be that with all the development, there's not enough land that will actually soak up the water, and if water needs to be retained somewhere.
I know we can improve on this. We did 4 years, I know we can.
Well, you have another basin up on 32nd Street on your side that hardly I ever see water in on the left side going, never see water.
Yeah.
Dry.
Right.
It was dry tonight.
So Steve, the larger basin, which is basically dry, is connected to that?
Yes.
So it would make sense to me that there's a blockage in that line
There was
between.
it was silted up and impacted last time we looked at it 4 years ago.
Yeah, so
I
that's
think
something
we
that
could-
they're going to have to maintain.
Yeah.
Because it's
you
going to
put me-
happen again.
Yep, if you put me in contact, Mike, whenever Atlantic Electric, I'm happy to jump in on my own time and help you guys out. It's easy.
All right,
Okay.
Thanks,
that's
Dan.
great.
Thank you.
Maybe if you send them a bill
Thank
for
you.
the damage, they'll be a little more
Yeah.
likely to take care of maintaining their own problem.
Yeah,
We've had to put in sump pumps in every window well.
Mhm.
It's also hard when the water likes to stay, and then after that, then the flies, the mosquitoes.
oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's almost like a wetland, but it doesn't seem like it wants to. I don't know. I'm not a.
Well, it certainly is obvious where the water's coming from. There's no question, yeah, in my mind.
And it just moves.
Yeah.
this way, right? And it almost like goes around every one of the defenses, and then just it's in that one loop of Chancellor Park. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming in, and we're going to be on this, okay? And especially with the information we just got from our engineer, Steve Philippone, okay, too. Thank you. We're going to move on to early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for a public hearing. Do you have anybody sign up, Mike?
Yes, Dan Snodgrass, 4A.
Come on up, Dan.
Hi, Dan Snodgrass, 60 Fox Hollow Drive, here to make sure that council is in support of 4A, because the money that's going for is for the hockey courts. As one of the coaches over there, not only for my own two kids, but also for my wife's team over in EHT, I coach street hockey 12 months out of the year. The courts that are over there now, unfortunately, there's a lot of kids that use it, and unfortunately the repairs that were done last year probably did worse than what was supposed to be done. We are very lucky that a kid hasn't injured himself with maybe a stick getting caught in the cracks. So it really needs to be done, because I think the cost of the bond and the borrowing cost or whatever, I think is a lot less than whatever liability, economic liability that could be there for all the kids that end up using it. And it's not just kids from our town. Kids from Mullica, Absecon, they're allowed to come over and play in that league because they don't have a league of their own. So you're not talking about just liability to township residents, you're also talking about liability for people who come over and use those facilities. So I just wanted to speak on the behalf of the league, the players, and everybody who's involved with that, to make sure that that committee understood how important that it was.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to mention on that for just a second. The hockey courts is something that it's now a safety issue. There was a group of us that went out and toured them, and we see the evidence of the cracks right there that are hazardous for the kids playing. It's a safety issue. The thing is, we've been looking at this for a while now, and we were almost going to go in the route of the tiles. We had samples of them in the office that we were going to put down, and then after talking to the administrator in Egg Harbor Township, who told us kids are popping those tiles up, vandals at night are popping the tiles up with a hockey stick and sailing them out into the woods, and plus they're slippery, among other things that you even raised concerns on, Dan. So, yeah, it's something that is absolutely has to happen. And what's come about is our engineers provided estimates of what the project would be. And then recently we just opened the bids, and the bids were more than what the project is. So going to bond for the difference is how we address that. And we certainly see the need, and we certainly want to address your concerns and the concerns of like the coach and everybody that uses those fields. So it's important. But thanks for coming out and kind of letting the committee know about the youth and who uses the courts.
And it is being addressed, as the mayor said.
Okay.
Very good. Discussions, formal actions may be taken. A, participation in a gypsy moth survey. Mike, could you explain this a little bit?
We receive this letter every year from the state asking us if we want to participate. We didn't budget any funding to spray. The actual survey is free, but once they survey, if they find gypsy moths, then they want to spray.
And that's something we have to...
That costs us money.
Yeah, that's cost.
We didn't budget for, so we've chosen not to do anything in previous years.
Have we had major complaints or problems with the gypsy moth problem? I haven't heard
I haven't
too
had
much
any
of it.
complaints.
Yeah.
Can I comment on that? I don't know whether I'm getting old or what, but
You are.
thank you. But looking back, and I forget how many years ago it is now, and maybe some of you were here then, the gypsy moth problem was absolutely horrible.
Yes.
You could stand under a tree. Well, actually, it sounded at night or even during the daytime, it sounded like it was raining all the time. And the raining was actually, the noise was actually the gypsy moth feces falling. It fell over everything and fell all over your cars. It was horrible. Ate up all the leaves on the trees. In fact, I've got beautiful trees that are now dead, and it's quite possible they're dead because of the gypsy moth infestation. Now, you mentioned a survey. Are you saying that if we have the survey taken, then we have to pay for the, it seems to me the very least we can get is a survey, certainly if that's free, because that gypsy moth problem is quite serious. Now, apparently this runs in periodically. We had two times when it was very bad, but I'll tell you, it can be horrendous, and it can kill the trees, and it's something we certainly like to avoid if possible.
But nothing kills the trees like a derecho. When we had that years ago.
Certainly not as fast.
Back in the 70s, I used to live in Bricktown, and I woke up one morning in my home, which had white siding on it, was completely black with the gypsy moths. And for years, we fought them up there. They defoliated thousands of acres, and if they
Yes.
defoliate the trees 2 consecutive years, I understand they die.
Mhm.
But to be candid with you, even where I live now, I haven't put any of that tanglefoot around my trees in years. I haven't seen a gypsy moth. Now, it doesn't mean they don't exist, but I do believe they have them pretty well under control in the area. I mean, I think there at one point, when they did a survey, there were parts of the township, you know how big the township is, right? 115 square miles. I think it was more out toward the west and in those areas that are heavily wooded. But, Brett, did you ever get any complaints on anything like that in your area?
Not out there. It was in Mazeland.
Yeah.
Well, we have to keep in mind that even though we may not have it now or in the near past, I don't know how we can predict it. But certainly, if there is any, if we can do any predicting, we want to make sure we don't have what happened before happen again. And once again, if this survey is at no cost, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have the survey.
Are you saying that we are required to spray once they've identified areas?
I don't think the letter indicates that we're required to spray. It's just that I'm sure there would be a lot of pressure to spray if you identify them.
Well, fortunately, you don't buckle under pressure, so it seems to me that we should have the survey and at least be, in fact, the whole township. We'd like to know, what's the status on the township. We need to know that for our own planning purposes for the future. So I would recommend that we have the survey.
Well, this is something that comes up every year, I would imagine, whether or not we want to participate in the survey. And I do notice that the cutoff for this is August 18th, so it's right around the corner. If we decided to participate in the survey, we're not obligated, like Rodney said, to have the spraying done.
Doesn't say that in the letter that we're obligated.
No, that's the way I read it.
It says,
It does.
if it is determined from egg mass surveys that the aerial treatment is needed, the department will develop spray contracts.
Well,
We don't sign a contract, we're not obligated.
Right.
Okay.
So it would be just the survey. And it looks like the only thing to do the survey is that the township has to provide them with area maps.
I don't know what the life cycle of the gypsy moth is, but sometimes those infestations happen unexpectedly. And that is a major problem if we don't stay on top of it, is, and if we feel as though we really need to spray, we can appropriate for the following year if it is a impending thing, because to defoliate the trees in our area is very important.
Originally,
And,
the problem started when a lot of the campers came down from other areas, and those masses, those chamois-colored masses that used to be in the wheel wells, brought them into the area. And then over time, they just exploded. And, I haven't seen any around because I'm around like you, around the trees all the time in the yard and whatnot, but I can't see where the survey would hurt, Michael. It might identify something we weren't aware of.
Committee, what's your pleasure?
I'm in favor of it, as I've stated.
Yeah, it says, I'm with it as long as there's no charge to us at this point.
At this point, do we need a motion?
Yes,
to-
you do,
Yes,
yes.
okay, so we want to
I'd like to
solicit a motion.
move that we conduct that we have the survey conducted.
Second it.
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call on this, Bob? No, so just all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Great, thank you. Next is 3B, handicap access ramp in the public meeting room. I can ask Mike to comment on this, which I will, but I also met in here with a group, and we looked at what had to be done. The original proposal did call for removing some of the back seating, in order, half of the back seating in the back rows to bring additional wheelchairs into the room. We didn't see the need for that when it's wide enough for chairs to come in if we have a number of handicapped folks that would like to be at a meeting, and we can wheel the chairs up along the front rail. So then it just left with an access ramp from the side for anyone that had to get up on the dais that was handicapped. And that's, Mike, if you could take it from there.
Yes, we've narrowed it down to just the ramp, and what we're looking for this evening is authorization for the architectural fees and $1,600 to design and go out for bid for the ramp,
Okay,
which is estimated at about $16,000.
okay.
Yes, to design it. So this is just a preliminary drawing right here that we have?
Yes.
And I guess my question that I even discussed when we were in the room, we just spent a lot of money to put a handicapped access ramp outside that has access inside and to this door. That doesn't change the need for having this done?
My understanding is that this improvement is necessary. I don't know, is it required? I can't answer that, but I don't know if it's required, but it's recommended so that there's more than one way of accessibility.
I think what the mayor's saying, Mike, is the fact that we have the ramp out front, accessibility, and we have the accessibility in the rear. If someone had to get up here to the dais, they would come through that door right there. So what you're saying essentially is that, does this meet a future need that may occur? Because right now, we don't have anybody, but it doesn't mean we wouldn't have somebody that needs to have a wheelchair to assist them.
Right, and they would have to go out the door and all the way around to meet with a resident or
Oh,
something
because
down
of
here.
because of the access to the room, because of security?
Oh, if they want to come down like you do and talk to a resident in between meetings or something like that, they'd have to go all the way around and come in the back door or into the side door. So it's to make it more consistent with mobile.
It seems to me that, well, first of all, it may not be a requirement. And if it's not a requirement, I would ask, do we really need this? Do we have a need for it now? And, what is our history? Do we expect a need for it? This kind of reminds me, in Washington, D.C., there was a requirement to have handicap accessibility for the subway system. So we had areas where they sat there for years, ready to go, but they didn't have an elevator, so nothing happened. And it turns out that you could pay for cabs for the next 50 years for less than the cost of that elevator. Sometimes we have to apply common sense, and my question is, is this something that we have, there's a demonstrated need for? That's my question.
Also, if we've satisfied the requirement, why go the extra mile? And having like a lift or a, the thing is, have we had an issue where someone has said they were not accessible?
Well, part of it, I believe, Judy, too, was, I'm sorry, Mike, don't we have to take the witness booth and make it floor level?
Well, the booth itself is not accessible.
Yeah, so my understanding was they were going to take that apart
Right.
and make it accessible and floor level and with no step.
Yes.
That was one of the items, too, not just the ramp. That's
Right.
part of this?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
There's no requirement for a witness to sit in that box.
Oh, why can't you sit on the outside? That
They could
doesn't,
sit at the table, they could sit with their
Yeah.
counsel.
Sure.
Witness stand is traditional with respect to presentation to a jury, which is not the case here.
Right.
The presentation is this way, so there's no requirement that a witness sit in that stand before they testify, as long as their voice can be recorded, amplified elsewhere.
my suggestion would be to save the $16,000, actually $17,600.
Well, that was just for the
Ramp.
ramp. Oh, that's
Study,
complete?
That's about 17.6 would be complete.
Complete.
That's the estimate. 16,000 for the ramp and
So
1,600.
if we put it
for
on
the-
hold, we don't lose anything, right?
Honestly, Phil working on this project, I'm not sure how it got chosen as the priority. We've been trying to do ADA improvements throughout the building.
And he's not here
and
tonight to
he's not here
discuss
this
that,
evening,
yeah,
so.
okay.
Well, do we want to put a hold on it until he...
Yeah, the fact
table it
that it's
until-
a formal action may be taken, it's a discussion item, I would say we could just table it for now, get some more input maybe from Phil about how it came about,
Okay.
and go from there. Does the rest of the committee
I
agree?
agree.
I agree with that
The only
also.
comment I'll make is that this isn't just us up here. Just about every board meets in this room.
Yes.
Planning board alone is 9 people. I mean, you're telling me that we will never have a handicapped person on any of those boards?
I don't think we're saying that, but there is another way to come in. I mean, it's not as if,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just asked the chief if, in his experience, has the court have experiences where wheelchair-bound folks had a problem, and he said no.
How do they come in now, chief, when they have to go through security?
Well, they would have to come back through here.
They go through there and then they let them come back through this way? I got you.
Okay. So we don't need a motion to,
Well, you can call
Delay
for a
this.
motion, and if you don't get one, it dies.
oh, okay, very good. Then let's call for a motion on,
Can we not wait to hear from Phil on this before we bring it to a motion? There's no
We can
reason for a
table it?
motion.
Motion would be to
You don't
carry
have to
it.
take any action.
the motion would be to carry it.
If you want to do that, the motion would be to carry, which means it doesn't die from a want of a motion.
Yeah, I'm with you, Art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's-
sure.
To what his
Yeah,
comments would be. Let
I
him come
think
to
we'd
the
like
next
Phil to
meeting.
chime in on this.
Mike, let him come to the next meeting.
with that also. And is there a difference between table and carrying?
Yes, there is.
Oh, what is the difference, if you don't mind?
It dies from a want of a second. It has to reignite anew.
Right.
If it gets carried, you can announce to the audience it's going to be on the next meeting, and it can be carried as an agenda item from this meeting.
Okay.
So, is there a motion on the floor?
Art, would you
Make a
like to
motion to
that?
carry it up to the next meeting.
I'll
so we have
second
an
it.
opportunity to hear from Phil Santorio.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Very good, thank you.
Stuff here.
Now we're going to move to introduction of ordinances. Item A, ordinance 1852-2017, a bond ordinance appropriating $100,000 and authorizing the issuance of a $95,000 in bonds or notes of the Township of Hamilton for capital improvement or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the Township of Hamilton. Mike, would you like to maybe make a few comments on this?
Well, this ordinance is appropriating, like you said, $100,000, 95 of it would be borrowed, 5 would be down payment, which we have in our capital reserve. And this would give us $300,000 towards this project, assuming there might be some change orders or something, so. It's not a lot of margin for error there.
No, but anticipating approval of this, what frame, I know we were on a time frame with the hockey teams, but what, and I've talked to them, they're willing to work with us because they see the need for the 2 courts being completed at one time rather than piecemeal it. That's what we're looking
We won't be able to stick with the construction timeframe that we had projected because this is going to set us back. We have to have the second reading next meeting, and then there's a 20 or 30-day estoppel time on the ordinance. And then the next meeting after that expires, we could award the contract. So you're probably looking at early November, late October, depending on how the meetings line up.
Before they could start work?
Before we could award the contract.
Award the contract in November.
So it's, and they even said that with that construction schedule, they may not get the painted surface on until spring.
Will they be able to do work during the winter?
Depends on the winter.
I mean, it's possible the weather could prevent it, I guess.
Yeah, we have to have a good
We know,
October and November.
Dan, when are your seasons?
So the season, the draft, when the season starts, is usually right around Columbus Day weekend, October 11th,
Okay.
16th-ish. The season starts usually right before Thanksgiving, or the first games right before Thanksgiving. The championship is held usually the last weekend in January, first weekend in February. And then All-Star season starts, and that goes through, February, March. All-Star season's not that big of a deal because we can just tell all the other towns. Yeah, we can, the All-Stars includes, Summers Point, EHT, Brigantine, the whole
Right.
lot of them. And we can just tell them that, listen, we're gonna put teams in, we just can't use the facilities, and you just make the schedule as it is. But, the regular season, where it is, and that's the other thing you gotta think about, the Chipmunks, the 4, 5, and 6-year-olds start playing right at the beginning of September. They do like a 6 or 7 week season just on Sundays, so they run there. But the main season's October, middle of October through, the beginning part of February is when it is.
So it sounds to me like this is best being pushed to after their season.
If they want to use the courts, yes.
Because if I'm a contractor, I want to go in there, rip boat down, do the whole thing at one time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure that's what's in their budget. And if we don't let them do it that way, it's going to cost more money.
Absolutely.
I have one other question. We set aside $200,000 for this project. Where did that number come from?
Me.
Was that a guess? Just an
Engineer
educated
estimate.
guess? Okay.
It was the
Based
engineer's
on-
estimate came in after that.
Right, based on what we had experienced from prior installations. So, all right, okay.
And my understanding is that there was a significantly more amount in the contract for the removal of the dugouts and backboards than I thought was going to be in it. That was a significant amount,
$58,000 just to remove
just to remove the,
the boards and the dugouts and such.
yeah, and we talked about that. There's really no way of doing it without doing that, to do it correctly.
Yeah, we
You
need
have to remove all that and surface.
this kind of money, we need it done right.
Yeah, we sure do.
Is there any maintenance that we need to do, additional maintenance to make the fields, reasonably safe until they're redone?
Off the top of my head, I can't say what we can do, but I would yield to Brett. We'll probably do something if they're going to use them another season.
Well, this includes some type of drainage underneath of them, is this correct?
Replacing the existing stones.
Okay.
Drainage.
Yeah, it's a complete reconstruction, yeah.
Well, the water gets trapped under there. and-
It's actually depending on how you get built up, like whatever the contract says, it's gonna be built up a little bit more, the water puddles to it.
Okay,
It's in the middle,
right,
farms.
right. And once the water gets under there, that's where the damage is coming from in the middle of the winter. Plus all those big 4- and 5-year-olds running all over the place, that probably causes a lot of damage, too.
Yeah.
And don't forget, those
Listen,
courts have been in there over 20-plus years.
Yes, and that was going to be my next statement, was that these courts are not brand-new. They've held up quite well. We tried to repair them to the best of the ability, trying not to cost too much money, but Dan, your comments, safety for the kids, that's priority here.
Absolutely.
I've coached hockey, both street, ice, roller. It's a dangerous sport without the courts being messed up. So I'm all for it.
Okay, are we then looking to really construct these courts since the spring? Or, I mean, certainly if it goes to October, early November, before you have the bid, what time does it take to do these? Is this a process
days.
where we have to let them sit?
The original construction schedule was 1 month and then 1 month waiting before we could put the paint on.
Right.
To let the hot mix
Oh, 1 month.
cure. So, assuming that they could stick to that schedule, again, with the weather, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure under the contract or the bid whether we could hold them off till spring or not. Bob's not here, obviously, so he's the engineer that did this, but
I kind of think that,
I can get that answer for you.
the way that it was discussed with the teams was that they would like to see this done sooner than later. I don't know if we can, and I understand Art's point, if you get it where it's late, the contractor has to look at it as how it can go. But if they could do the project now, and it would just mean that they might not be able to do the surface coat of painting, is that something that,
We're fine with that, yeah, I mean, at least we have a better surface to play with, it just won't get hurt. You know?
that's the part I'm kind of thinking about now. Right now, something needs to be addressed. It's either going to be temporary again and then start the project, or it's going to be start the project and apply the paint later on if they can't get it done. But I don't know, that's whatever committee feels on that.
Is it actually just paint, or is it a urethane?
it's an
or-
epoxy
Or do you know
coating.
more about
Epoxy paint.
Epoxy takes a while to,
Yes.
set up?
yeah,
Well-
just knowing from the skating rink, yeah, it takes a lot of time. Takes at least a week
To cure?
to set up, yeah.
Wouldn't it be possible to use chalk or some other substance until such time as,
Yeah, we'll do whatever, we'll do whatever.
yeah,
All their
okay,
yeah.
yeah. Well, that seems,
Time it gets nice, we'll paint them.
There you go.
there we go.
Okay.
Mayor, you want us, I can make a motion to move ordinance 1852, 2017?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes,
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
The ordinance is introduced.
And now we're down to award bids, contracts, and change orders.
Could you take H separately, please?
Sure, I can do that.
Them all separate now.
H.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I thought we were in section 6.
I understand. They both are H. It's okay. Yeah, yeah. So we're on 5A, under awards of bids, contracts, and change orders. And this is a resolution authorizing execution of a shared service agreement for computer maintenance services provided to Egg Harbor City Police Department, August 8th, 2017 through August 7th, 2020. Mike, would you like?
Yes, I'd just like to add to that it be conditioned on executing a indemnification hold harmless agreement. That was not in this shared service, but I'd like to have that done as part of it. And we can just get them executed as well.
Okay. So we could still approve this, and you'll,
I don't see why not. They've already approved it,
yeah.
so we can approve it and then just do the other thing before you sign it.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion to award the contract?
So moved.
Second.
Terms with the
Subject
indemnification.
to
Subject to
Yeah.
the
Subject to the addition that our
Correct.
administrator just spoke of. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
5B, Resolution authorizing the award of a contract for municipal building access control system additions from Intellicom Systems Incorporated in the amount of $25,657.
Mr. Mayor, this is a multi-year project that we've been phasing in over the last several years. This is just this year's phase. It's the door controls for the badges.
And is there additional phases then after
There'll be
this?
another phase, I think at least one more after this one.
One more phase? Okay.
How much was it altogether? Was
It's
it,
over $100,000 for the whole system.
so this is one segment?
This is just one section, yeah.
When I discussed this with our administrator, I asked the question of how do we really need this? Apparently, we have door locks on a number of the key doors in the building, and this and the additional follow-on, I guess, would provide these key lock systems everywhere. My question is, do we really need that? Do we really need to know who's opening, who's going in and out of every door here?
Mike, is any of this new additions being done on the police end?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the police.
Some of it's on the police side.
Chief, would you like to maybe address why we would need those items, or what?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, most of the police department, at least on the exterior, already has the key card system. And it's very important for us because we have a property and evidence room and other areas of the police department internally that have the old key system. So it's good for us to be able to track who's going down, who's coming out. And the other thing is it's much easier to key in and out with the card system. With the old key system, we're always having issues with those, but on our side, it's mainly for being able to track who's coming in and out.
Okay, well, my question, I really wasn't necessarily directing just the police department. I was looking outside that also. But the police department, I mean, once it's in the building, there's still a desire to know exactly who, because it would only be, I would imagine, township personnel, police personnel moving in and out.
Yes, it's important.
Still important, all right.
Yeah.
That's all. What about the rest of the township? Is that still critical for the rest of the township?
Well, critical, that's a tough word.
All right, maybe
I think
that's not
it's better
the
than what
right
we
word.
have. If you lose a key, you have to change the lock in the door. Here, if you lose a card, you just cancel it and start
Cancel it
over.
and make another card.
Having this is a lot less weight on you also, and every time somebody leaves, you don't worry about the key
Not getting
coming
your
in.
key back.
You just change your program.
All right, that was just a question.
I think since we're in the middle of the whole project, to eliminate who gets, what door should be accessible and what door shouldn't be, I think it's already gone through, Rodney. So let's just get this, the rest of it done.
Okay,
Just
Chief,
my own
you were going to
opinion.
say something?
No, a good point was brought up. One of the other aspects of this, at least on our side of the building, is only certain people have access to certain things. So this is a way to easily limit access to certain areas if you have to.
Right, so it's about limiting access. to-
Correct.
Understood.
And you know yourself, too, we have one of the busiest court systems in the county here. And this place, a number of days during the week has a lot of visitors coming and going.
Yes.
So it's protection for a lot of people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Committee, we're looking for a motion to award this.
Second?
We got a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gashar?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item 5C, resolution authorizing the annual renewal of snow plowing services bid with Warner's Construction Incorporated commencing October 1st, 2017 through April 3rd, 2018.
We've
Mike, is this-
had them before, right?
This is the same company?
I think this would be the 6th year, so this is the 3rd year of a 3-year bid. So I'm recommending approval. We only use them when we have to.
Gotcha.
I'll move that resolution.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
You know what you were going to say, providing that we don't.
5D, resolution approving change order number 1, final for reforestation plan contract number 2, no change in the contract amount. Mike?
Yes, so what we did is change the location of some of the trees. There were some scheduled to be planted back at the end of Iliff Avenue, and we wanted to retain that area for parking.
And this has already been
Workspace.
done?
These trees are already planted, they're in the parks, they're in some of the right-of-ways are across the
Okay.
street and are.
Sure. I've seen some of the locations where they went, but it wasn't one specific area. Our solicitor had asked a question.
That was
These are
all
things that were done all over
all
our
over
township.
town, yes.
Mike, and these were paid for by a grant?
Under grant, yes.
Under grant,
It was a
right.
$500,000 grant, yes.
$500,000?
That's great. We love
What
grant
kind
money.
of trees are they?
There's a variety.
Depending on the location, I think.
All oak and
Well,
pine?
there's some pin oaks.
They're listed on the last page of your
Yeah, the
report.
local trees that
Hickory, oak,
Yeah,
All oak
there's
and
the right kind of
Swamp oak.
trees.
sawtooth oak.
Okay. We're looking for a motion to approve the
So moved.
resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and carried.
5E, resolution approving change order number 1, final for 6372 Beacon Avenue demolition project, 2015. Grant money comes from the CDBG grant as recommended by project engineer Robert Smith with a net increase of $2,777. I know Phil's not here tonight. Mike, could you comment on that?
Yes, this project's been going on for quite a while. We had a contractor who removed there were tires that he did not notice when he did the project, so.
Right. They found it out after the fact.
His bid was significantly lower than the second bid. That said, he removed the tires to the property line, or close to it. Then there was the whole, piles of tires right at the property line going over. Mosquito Control came in and removed the tires that didn't have rims in them, because they only can take the ones without rims, because they're the ones, I guess, that harbor
That breed the mosquitoes, yeah.
So these are the ones that are left over with rims in them, and there's a car frame, and just finished up the back edge of the property, everything within 1 foot of the property line.
This will
Should be
finish the
removed.
project then?
Should finish the project, and then we can move forward with disposing of the property.
Good.
Okay. We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and carried.
5F, resolution authorizing option year 2 award of bid 2016-08 emergency generator service and maintenance contract to Atlantic Switch and Generator, 4108 Silent Boulevard, Hainesport, New Jersey, in the amount of $7,050, hourly rate $95, with 20% parts markup for the period September 19th, 2017 through September 18th, 2018. And this is just for the services that we have, maintenance on our generators?
For our emergency generators, yes.
Okay.
And it's
I'll
the
move
second year of a 3-year.
I'll move it.
How many,
Second.
Did you have a question, Ronnie?
yeah, just how many generators do we have? 2, is it?
Well, we have 2. We have one here and one behind the POW building. I don't know if they do the Public Works one too.
So it's 3.
3.
I have a follow-up question. I understand recently we had an issue in the police department in the communications room where air conditioning went down or something. Is that right, Chief? Recent? Yeah, is that generator cover that too?
Well,
Okay.
it depends on which HVAC system you're talking about, because I think the dispatch has a separate HVAC system than the rest of the building.
Okay, understood.
But that's
Okay,
that's
all right, I
generator.
just wanted to bring it up to clarify it.
So I
Happy
move.
with their service? That's the real question.
Yeah, that
here.
boy, is that the real question. They
Yeah.
doing a good job?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay, we
moved
have
it.
a motion,
I moved it.
we have a motion and a second.
Second, I second.
Rita?
Mr. Gishar?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
A resolution to award a contract to Janney Electric Incorporated for Underhill Park underground wiring replacement in amount of $26,900. I just would like to comment on this for a minute. I've been kind of following this. Of course, we had an issue where the lights, the overhead lights on the Underhill Park field, and we have football coming up now, were going out after a short period of time, and I understand even some of them aren't even coming on now. And when we had it inspected, we found that the problem wasn't in the poles or the light fixtures, it was in the underground wiring. So we made arrangements, and Brett contacted things, and we went out to bid for having it repaired. And the company that's that's going to do this, that's on it for tonight, is Janney Electric. But the important part is they have the underground boring systems capable of doing the wiring without trenching the football fields, which is really important. We don't want to dig holes through the center of the fields, and it'll make the project happen fairly quickly. So I just wanted to kind of explain that a little bit.
If I might add to that also, there will be conduits this time. There weren't conduits before, as I understand it, so that should make it a much more lasting installation.
Yeah, the conduits.
Any other comments? We need a motion to award.
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishar?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Resolution to award contract to Schaefer Nasser Scheidig Consulting Engineers LLC to provide engineering services for a subdivision application for the Hamilton Business Park for an amount not to exceed $8,000. Mike, could you inform us, or Bob, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the Industrial Commission owns a large parcel of land, and there's a number of reasons for seeking a subdivision, one of which was that it would be more marketable. And there is some interest in this property, but not in the large volume, the 95 acres of the piece. So we're hiring this engineering firm who worked for a prior contract vendor. The sale never went through, but they did the work for the environmental, the outbound survey. So it was wise to choose them, not just because they're the low bidder, but because they're familiar with the property, and they will appear before the planning board for a subdivision application.
Makes sense. Thank you. We're looking for a motion to award.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Rita?
Mr. Gishar?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Number 6, consent agenda. We're going to pull off item H.
Now, you don't have to do that.
Oh, we don't?
I had a senior moment.
Oh, okay. Consent agenda, or we're looking for a motion to approve items A through H.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishar?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Number 7, approval of approvals. Minutes of July 17, 2017, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Okay, motion carries. B, minutes of July 17th, 2017, executive session.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishar?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item C, payrolls and bills. A bill list totaling $6,569,646.63.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishar?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Reports, our administrator.
Yes, I did have one item late this afternoon. I did receive from Mr. Sandman a letter in reference to Fernmore Homes and Woods Landing. There's a copy of this in your mailboxes. that at the end, when all the inspections and all the requirements are completed, the township would in fact have to take over the streets.
Okay.
Was
And the
the
purpose
answer.
of this letter was so that it could be provided to the MUA?
Yes, and I'm going to provide it to them tomorrow.
Okay.
The letter to them.
And from that letter, I would assume that the decision could be made that we could flush their,
That's what
They
the
could
MU
flush
told,
their
that's
hydrant
what the
systems?
director told me.
Okay.
okay?
He hasn't seen this yet, but
Yeah,
that's what he told me before.
that's great.
And we're documents.
Anything else?
That's all I had to.
Okay. Our solicitor.
I am pleased to announce I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Our engineer, Kevin.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, we have our report submitted. I'm happy to take any questions on that report.
Okay, anyone have any questions
Yeah,
for our
Kev,
engineer?
how soon do you think we'll go out for the road program now?
As you may know, I missed a few days in July, so we're on the verge of going out there. We had thought we would be out in July.
Good.
But we should be out this week, actually.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Township Committee, I'll start off. I have a few notes that I'd like to go over. First, I wanted to go over National Night Out. I want to thank our police department, emergency services, along with the National Association of Town Watch and the Hamilton Mall, who sponsored the 34th Annual National Night Out. It was a great event. Thanks, Chief. Thanks for your command staff, the officers, and everybody, emergency staff, every public works who participated in that. Again, it was a little warm during the day, but the temperature cooled down. There was an excellent crowd. We were out there. Judy, Roger, we were out there, and Rod, and it was really well attended. We're very happy. We're very happy for that, and the chief did a great job. So we want
Mayor, I think we talked about it before. Whenever we have any of these type of activities in our community, it's amazing to see that many people, thousands of people, come and go without incident. So it, again, speaks volumes about the work that our department does and Public Works and all the planners, so thank you.
Thank you. And the next is, we had the pleasure of swearing in 3 new police officers. They are Mike Tannum, Eric Thumbart, and Eric DeMeo. And when you look at the number of applications that we had for officers on this round, it speaks volumes to the credentials for these young men. It was very enjoyable for us to be at the swearing in. Any other comments?
Well, no, the nice thing about it, too, and I think already, Chief, you got 2 of them on the street, right? One of them went the alternate route to the academy.
Yeah, one
So
went to
he
the-
came in and he got sworn in, he could go to the street. The other transferred from another department in.
Yeah.
So I think it.
So we get 2 on the street.
2 on the street.
Very good, very good.
And the other one started at the academy already, correct?
Yes, he does.
Good.
Oh, that's great. Another comment I'd like to make is on Volunteer Way. I just have some statistics provided to us through the chief that kind of like stood out. And this report was done on July 18th, so the road wasn't open that long for these statistics, but Volunteer Way is the corridor road that opened out on the pike that connects back through the developments there by that new development across from Hamilton Commons. When Volunteer Way opened, we cut a ribbon out there. We tried to get some information from the owner as to what was going to happen there, but that was kind of shushed up, and we're still working on things there. But the amazing part is that in that short period of time, 1,261 vehicles per day are using Volunteer Way just up until July 18th. So I can't even imagine what it could be now. So it's great to see even folks that were there that were objective to that road being there. They thought it would be disturbing. Look at the volume of traffic that's utilizing that roadway. We just recently got the developer to cut the grass. It was a mess for a while, but we got that taken care of. We had to stay on them. And then we were able to sit down at a workshop and get some additional exciting news that things will be happening out there. I can't talk about them right now. until we have further meetings or it comes before the planning board. But we will start to see things take place out there. I cannot say that the next phase of whatever development they're doing and what they're going to put there would include finishing Renaissance Drive.
Right.
So Renaissance Drive would have to be done at that completion. So now that part would be complete. They can come in from Cates Road, they can come through the development at Renaissance Drive to the light, or they can choose to take Wrangleboro and come through Volunteer Way and out to the Cates Road. So that's an exciting, I think it's exciting anyway, that we have that kind of circulation that can move through that area. It ought to help traffic immensely.
I don't know if it's alleviated a lot of traffic on Cates, but I haven't heard anybody complain lately.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are using the Volunteer Way. And of course, the statistics that you provided too with the speed limit, it's amazing that the average speed is, what, 33 miles per hour on that road?
Yeah.
And that's pretty good considering. And, you know, a lot of people have said, well, they're speeding down that road, but your statistics speak for themselves. So I think it's pretty significant.
Of course, if I might add, the real problem on Cates Avenue was over there by the light near canals, and I would think the Volunteer Way has had a positive impact on that.
Yes, Ronnie,
sure.
it has. And I can comment on that too, because the project across the road from it, what will eventually be the Lytle Supermarket or Lytle Market, as recently announced that they have to deal with DOT for the work that has to be done on that road. So the fact that when AutoZone was put in, the planning board required a 10-foot area be dedicated for a future improvement of a right-hand turn lane. But now Lytle is going to be the one when they're coming in that's going to complete that action. So as the result of that project being done whenever, the right-hand turn lane will go in using that dedicated land that we put aside as part of the planning board application with them, with AutoZone. So now residents coming out will also be able to get over to the right and make a right without tying up that traffic at that intersection for a longer period of time. So it's just good news. That whole area looks like it's starting to work where things are going to alleviate the problems for residents with traffic in that area. And then, not this rain event we're having now, which is significant, but the rain event we had last week. I just want to touch on that because it really was a flash flood. It was 7 inches of rain in a short period of time. We had flooding in our community that we've haven't had in a while. And I just want to send our kudos out to the Public Works Department, our Fire Department, who did a great job in handling some hot spots around the township. And especially to our Public Works Supervisor, Brett Knoll, for keeping a watchful eye on the dam. Because I understand if we weren't able to get the county to open that third gate, we could have had some additional flooding. It turns out that it took a while for that water to get up to the spillway and over, because we did get that gate open and it was left open for an amount of time. I don't know if it's open now anymore, but it was closed now. Yeah, but my understanding is, hopefully, if I'm correct, Bob, we'll have the ability to open that third gate when needed now?
I believe so. I believe that Brett called me at 9:30 Thursday night
Yeah,
and alerted me that he was anticipating at that point 5 inches of rain.
right.
And because of the positioning of the coffer dam, the water couldn't get in there fast enough. By opening that third gate, and we got the county there by 10 o'clock the next morning.
That's great.
And I want to thank the county council for that.
Mm-hmm.
He got calls from me at, midnight.
Wow.
But it did. And I believe once they've allowed us to do that, it takes away the threat. Now, what happened there was, in the litigation over the dispute with Agate, it was determined that there was a void in that third pipe. And we went down there. We actually went into the pipe, and the void I could stand in. That's how bad it was. They pumped 5.5 yards of some sort of special concrete to fill that void, but they weren't sure whether it was going to work. Well, so now I guess the county is not reluctant to allow us to, or allow Brett to use his discretion. And my hat's off to Brett, because it could have been a mess.
Yes, yes, it could have.
Well, look at the mess that did occur on that street. The contractor decided to mill that day of the rainstorm, and what happened?
It was ugly.
It was ugly. People drove through it and got stuck in there. And then, a couple days later, they were milling again and they broke a water main that lost us 500,000 gallons of water. And I hope, Counselor, that you're getting on that for the MUA, because it did quite a bit of damage.
And by way of Brett, I don't think the mayor mentioned it. I understand he was up all night on that problem, unless somebody was exaggerating to me, but we certainly are indebted to you and appreciate that, because it does take some skill and it takes the background and history that he has and the conscientiousness to make sure it doesn't flood.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And another thank you to, on Brett and the Public Works folks, because we did have one area of the township where a resident had significant water in their home, and out by Underhill Park. And the Public Works Department came through, our fire department came in, and we were able to help relieve the situation, so it possibly didn't get any worse than it did. It was still significant. And then, of course, after that event was over, we met at that area where the problem was, and I know I noticed when I was out there that day, and the resident was frantic that she was going to lose her house, that the water was going across the road on Underhill before it went under the bridge. So if the bridge is meant to take the water, something's not right, sort of like what we were talking about earlier. So fortunately, the county's coming out to redeck that bridge shortly, and I asked our administrator if he wouldn't contact the county and ask them if they could look into the issue of the water not traveling properly underneath that bridge. Maybe it's a situation where they just need to get a backhoe in there and dig it out a little bit, widen it some, I don't know. But what an excellent time to do it when they're going to have the top off the bridge. So we do try to address things as quickly as we can, and we let the resident know that we were working on that too. So hopefully we'll have that much success with this project out here at Chancellor Place. And that's all I have. Rodney, Roger, can you? Roger?
Yeah, I'm glad to see that finally we got Malaga Road striped. They did a great job. I mean, that road goes forever.
Looks great, yeah.
And it now meets the Buena Vista end of it because they were double striped all
That's
the
right.
way up.
Now it's continuous all the way.
So we talked about that. The speed limit was lowered to 40 miles an hour.
Right.
We have the no passing for the entire length of the roadway.
Right.
And hopefully now we'll just be able to control things in a way in which it can cut down on what's going on out there in terms of the trucks traveling at higher rates of speed.
We hope so. Now that the whole thing is no passing, hopefully that gives the message that, you can't say that you thought it was passing, because part of it is, none of it is now.
No, which is good, too. So the other nice thing that occurred was finally they paved that portion of Egg Harbor Road from Ernst Drive all the way up to Pinehurst, which really made it a lot smoother because you had a very bad section in there. Used to dip down. And I think that, that's significant,
And the contractor did a very good job.
He did a nice job.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, so.
And that was at no cost to the township.
That's right, that was a developer of
That's
the
right.
adjacent development.
Right.
As part of his agreement in there. The other thing was during the week, Mays Landing Fire Department had their new fire truck delivered, which was another piece of fine equipment. I think the other good thing about National Night Out, when we've seen everything that the displays of all of the public safety people, to see the lineup of fire trucks out there, I think people got a good idea of the amount of equipment our fire departments have. When you look at a township of this size that we talked before, when you look at one fire department up in Weymouth, they cover 44 square miles. And that's a lot, just one fire department. And if you look at Lauredale and Cologne, I mean, they're all looking at 29 to 30 miles, When we look at the size of a town like Pleasantville, it might be 3 miles long by a mile wide. You need equipment to get into a lot of these places. And a lot of these places, you don't have water. You don't have fire hydrants once you move out of this area. So I think, we have to always take our hat off to those people because they're thinking always ahead, the equipment they need, and they've been designing the equipment to meet the needs of the community, which is great. So the fire truck was absolutely fantastic. So the other good thing was 2 weeks ago, we had, just right after our last meeting, Mitzvah put on a car show up there, and for those people that are automobile enthusiasts to see the old-time vehicles, they had quite a display. What would you say, Mayor? They had about 35 or 40 cars?
At
Art?
least, yeah, or maybe a
Would
few
you
more,
say
yeah.
big display,
East.
wasn't it?
Yep, very
But
nice.
so, all of that is good, and it brings the community out to these places, and I think it's always good, so.
Were any for sale?
Yeah, there's always a few, but, I don't have your money, so I really can't.
Very funny.
There was one guy who was holding a car for me.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
He don't know it yet.
Yeah, he lets you take a picture of it, right?
Yeah, let me stand there.
That's it, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, Art?
I just, I was out of town last week. My mother-in-law passed after a long battle with dementia. So for the last week and a half, I've been in the other side of Pennsylvania, so I wasn't here for a lot of the events. I want to thank the chief and your department. Our National Night Out is probably one of the best in the area, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but it was a tough week for me, but you guys did a great job, and I can't wait to be there next year. So that's all I have, John.
Okay, Art. Rodney?
Yeah, I certainly won't repeat what the rest of you said about National Night Out, except to say that it was really a tremendous event, and not only the police department, but so many other organizations and businesses within the township contributed, and I would certainly recommend attending next year if you didn't get a chance to do it this year. This week, or is it this month, I also attended the Merchant Association meeting, and the one that John used to head, and it was an interesting meeting. Things are really starting to pick up and happen. One of the areas of interest with the Merchant Association was the farmers market. Now, this is something that's been brought up from time to time, and in fact, the Green Team has had an effort to investigate it, and many of the merchants showed an interest in it also, so perhaps we can see something happen in the future. If there's anybody out here that's interested, let that be known, and we can get you involved also. The Harding Highway, oh yes, on the weekend, I participated in a VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, coin drop, and I hope we didn't irritate too many of you. I certainly want to thank those of you that contributed, and there are many people that did make a contribution. But because of that detour, that 559 detour, there was traffic piled up for 2 miles, as many as 2 miles along Harding Highway, and I think many of these people were blaming that on the VFW. Let me tell you, it wasn't our fault. But I do want to thank you. And that brings to mind one of my big complaints on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the SJTPO, and that is the amount of time it takes to complete transportation projects. I think we all of us need to work on that, because I think there are ways to speed things up. In any contracts we let, there should be for time, and we should make it as least inconvenient to our travelers as we can, and sometimes it seems like we don't do that. But the Harding Highway, I don't know how long it's been now. What is it, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Just about.
It's been a while, and that was a major rehab, something which we like to prevent by doing the preventative maintenance we need on roads to prevent having to get to that level. But certainly, I think we need to keep in mind the inconvenience that this construction has. It really was terrible with traffic, and we've had so many events in the township recently, the flooding and other things that has really disrupted traffic. I attended a planning board meeting, which I thought went very well, and certainly pointed out all the things that need to be considered in these new construction projects. Certainly water is a major consideration, and I can assure you the planning board is aware of this, and they're doing what they can to prevent problems, and this kind of helps not only the developers, but it helps the residents in a nearby area, and it helps the everyone in preventing disasters or poor planning for the future. Just want to remind folks that we have a team here that participated, I guess it must be over now, in the softball tournament. And I think this is either regional or national, I've forgotten. But our team won, well, not won this, but they went to the World Series, right, in Florida. And I'm anxious to see what happened. But even if we didn't win, and I don't, maybe we did, but if we didn't win, it's certainly an honor to have the team go there. And we had several people, including the skating rink, I think, contribute money toward that. So that's good. We'll probably hear a little more about that. Speaking of sinkholes, I thought they only happened in Florida, but we had a Township police car fall into a sinkhole behind the VFW there. And they were able to back out without any damage, I hope. I told the VFW we need to charge the Township for causing that sinkhole, but just kidding. We got it filled, but it's interesting. That's something I hadn't seen around here for a while. And that's really all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Judy?
Yes, I attended the National Night Out with Rodney and John and Roger. I really loved all the display of our, fire trucks, our police. They did a wonderful job in showing how the K-9 unit worked, and so on and so forth. What I would like to see in the future is a presence of the merchants in Mays Landing proper. I don't think there was too much exposure there. We want people to come into Mays Landing and shop and come and visit us there. And since it's over at Hamilton Township Mall, I just felt that there was not that kind of presence that I would like to see. Maybe next year that will be taken into consideration. The food trucks were fantastic. They had like 6 food trucks that were there, and one of ours from Mays Landing was there, Smoky, but that was good. But I think it was a wonderful event. It's a tribute to our community, but as I said before, I'd like to see more of a presence of downtown Mays Landing over there, if possible.
Good point.
So maybe that's something that can be worked on.
I think we use more food truck. The food was very expensive.
Okay, thank you, Judy.
Okay.
We're going to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Now's your time.
John, can I add something real quick?
You sure can. Go ahead, Ron.
So we sit up here at meetings and people come and voice their opinion, which happened tonight, which is fine. We're okay with that because we don't know everything that goes on in the township and we want to hear your concerns. But I want to applaud all of you because you're one of the few that actually stayed through the whole meeting after you
Yes.
voiced your opinion.
Yeah, this is
normally they get
incredible.
up and exit.
Thank
I
you.
can only figure there's 2 reasons. One, we are very, very interesting people, or it's a really slow TV night. But thank you anyway. I really appreciate it. It's, people voice their opinion. The next thing we see is they're back, walking out the door. So thank you very much for hanging in there.
Good
Yes,
comment.
indeed.
Come on up, Marjorie.
On behalf of Chancellor Place, one follow-up. We had a hearing regarding the burned-out house at 142 Knightsbridge.
Yes.
And there's about a 30-day window for the bank to react, or it would go to council or committee with the recommendation of demolishing the home. And I just wanted to hope that if the bank doesn't intercede and start moving it, that we would get support to demolish that house.
I don't think it comes to committee.
No, it doesn't? It automatically just
I think
happens?
it's automatic.
To the Property Maintenance Board, I believe.
So I don't know if there's been any interaction from that bank since we had
Well, the
that hearing.
notices are going out,
Okay.
and they're having
We just have
another
to wait and see.
meeting.
Yeah.
Is it this week? August 15th.
There is a financial penalty, though, I believe, if they don't act.
If they don't act, we're going to
So-
tear it down.
Pardon me?
If they don't act, the township can demolish it.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Looking
Yeah.
for support on.
Yeah, that's the way it's set now, so if they don't act, the township can demolish the property.
Thank
So
you.
and you were at that meeting of the,
Was it the
yeah, I think our board did,
That's how it sounded it would go. I just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure that
yeah.
follow up if nothing.
yeah,
else
everything
was
seemed to go really well at that meeting. We did, the object was to address those
Good
issues.
process, and it seems to
Yeah,
work.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Marjorie. Anyone else wish to comment tonight?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. Now we're going to adjourn to executive session. Rita?
Be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters, which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. Hamilton Township Pipe Crossing Replacement Bid, attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that the governing body may reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight.
It was interesting. It was a good comment.
Public session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, after the discussion we've heard from Mr. Lafferty, we're looking at making a motion to accept the bid from Seashore Associated Mechanical,
For.
okay, for the amount of $111,000. That was the bid.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, Rita?
It was $111,667.90.
Thank you for the correction.
Yes. And Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Hey, thanks for
Aye.
All